Okay, so welcome to episode 3 of Weekly Inkblot. God, whenever I say it normally, I never have trouble, but when I have to do it for this, I always have trouble. This week we are dealing with anxiety. And I actually want to start off with a poem that was brought into my IOP group. Um, it's called What is Fear? It's by Bianca Flores. I think the subtitle is Fear Itself is Undefined, so here we go. I lay on my bed, soaking my pillow with my tears. I try to remember exactly what it is that I fear. Is it the passing of time or the love that I lack? Is it the mistakes that I've made or the fact that I can't bring the past back? What is it I'm so afraid of? Why am I so scared? Is it the people I've hurt or the people that have hurt me? Am I afraid of everything that I can't seem to see? Is it the love of a friend or the loss of my family? Is it the possibility that my life can end in a tragedy? What is it that I fear most? What do my eyes say I'm scared of? Is it the sun that sets but won't seem to rise? Is it the hope that I have that always seems to die? Is it the trust of a person that I cannot begin to grasp? Is it all the memories of my horrid past? Is it me? Can it possibly be that the thing I fear most is the thing I can't be? The things that I try to understand. The me that I try to be with when I'm feeling sad. The person I'm expected to be. Is that what I fear? I think the thing I fear most is me.
And I think that that's probably one of the more accurate descriptions that I've heard of anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said it all. So see you next week, people.
Doesn't work that way.
Oh.
Well,
All right.
darn.
Well, I guess I agree.
When she read it this week in IOP on Monday, I was thinking about how we had anxiety coming up for this week, and it really kind of speaks towards anxiety and how, like, when you're in the moment, it's like you almost don't know sometimes what it is you're so afraid of. Like, people ask you, like, well, what sets off your anxiety? What are you so scared of?
And there really is no good answer most of the time.
Yeah, and like it feels like real stuff, but then like when you have to explain it to someone else, it's like, oh, this isn't stuff that people are scared of. They're probably going to just tell me not to be afraid of it.
Yeah.
And
panic attacks suck as a result of anxiety.
Yeah.
Anxiety is hard to. I don't have a distinct definition, but they do have in. I have my the anxiety and phobia workbook, which is supposed to be really good. I haven't actually done all the work through it. But they talk about how, anxiety, it's psychological, it's behavioral, it's about the reaction, it's all of it at the same time. And what you'll get from anxiety, you get, these are the symptoms of a panic attack. Shortness of breath, heart palpitations, trembling or shaking, sweating, choking, nausea, or abdominal distress. Numbness, dizziness or unsteadiness, feeling of detachment or being out of touch with yourself, hot flashes or chills, fear of dying, fear of going crazy or out of control. And I do want to say that an anxiety attack and a panic attack are different things.
Yeah.
A panic attack is going to really affect your whole body. Like, if you're in a full-blown panic attack, like the one I had, I couldn't move. I was hiding behind my hair. I was scared to death. I felt my heart, like, beating in my chest, and my breath was going really, really fast. And I couldn't move, like, at all. And but then I also have anxiety attacks. Like, I have these weird, and it comes up in, like, I don't even know what brings it on. I'll be watching something like Supernatural, and Dean says something, and all of a sudden, my world is spinning out of control, and my mind is sitting, like, I feel kind of this tenseness and like numbness, like pinpricks all in my torso. And I feel like my thoughts are sitting there going, it's never going to get better. It's never going to be, good. You're never going to be happy. You should give up. You should just kill yourself and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think that's depression also, meeting it halfway. Yeah, I mean, certain times, like, certain things will, like, come up and it's just, like, something asinine, like somebody's talking about their favorite coat, and I'm just like, oh, that reminds me of this terrible thing, and then I just kind of, like, spiral out of control, and it's kind of awesome. Not really. It's, yeah, all of a sudden I'm just like, well, I feel like I'm falling, and I'm not.
And
Yeah.
Certain sights will trigger it, certain sounds will trigger it inexplicably. You know, for me, there's very little that can pinpoint what causes this. You know, what brought it on this time.
Mhm.
Yeah, sometimes, like,
But
somebody will have, like, a text tone on their phone that, like, I used to have during, like, a time that was, like, kind of crappy, and I'll hear the sound, and I'll just, like, get, like, kind of knocked back there, and I'm just like, oh, man.
yeah.
Yeah. And, when it comes on, there's, like, it's really hard to fight off a panic attack. Like, when it starts, if it starts off slowly, like, you can kind of feel the panic beginning and whatnot. Like, I feel it in my stomach a lot. But sometimes the panic attack hits you just so fast that there's nothing you can do. It's like that. And you're in
Yeah, because if it comes on slow, if it comes on slow, you can, like, align yourself with better environment and people. Like, okay, this is about to happen. I should probably call so and so.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I can even just make it not happen.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I need to call this person. Yeah, but when it happens fast, it just springs on you. It's like, well, I can't feel my mouth.
It's like, great, so we're in this.
Suddenly, everything's tingling, and I'm terrified.
Yeah.
There are a multitude of reasons why anxiety attacks and panic attacks happen. I see that anxiety seems to be like, it comes with depression almost for a lot of people. Like, most people, I think, that deal with depression and those that deal with post-traumatic stress disorder do have some sort of anxiety problems. And different reasons for that. If I get triggered for something that reminds me of something that has happened to me, like, it could take me back there and I start panicking. Or dealing with my dad. Like, if I have to call him about something I know it's going to be confrontational, like, I start getting that panic feeling. And I actually take an Ativan before I do those phone calls. Just to stop that.
Yeah.
To calm it down a little bit.
I mean, the best I can do most of the time is just sort of try and wait for it to pass.
I like the whole breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth thing.
Yeah.
Mindful breathing. It's called in DBTs.
And then sometimes I'll do things to like pull myself back into the moment.
Yeah.
Kind of pull me back in reality. I'll just like say something weird to somebody,
Well,
probably something inappropriate.
mindfulness in and of itself is a really good thing to use because it kind of brings you back to the present moment in time. And
Hmm.
you're not focusing on the past and you're not focusing on the future, you're just focusing on what is right now.
Which is pretty hard.
Yeah, it really can be. It's like,
Well, it's like with depression, you're like stuck in the past, and anxiety, you're worried about future
hmm
Yeah.
stuff. So
That's fairly
yeah,
apt.
it's kind of
You're
like
worried about the unknown,
being
what
pulled
you
from
don't
both
know is going to
directions.
happen. I also notice people with anxiety tend to project far more. It's that whole what if factor of, well, what if this happens? Well, what if that happens? And you don't know, which makes it even worse because you're sending yourself into cyclical thinking at that point of what if this
Hmm.
happens? What if that happens? Making yourself more anxious, more upset, and it's so hard to stop that.
Sometimes the anxiety causes more
Yeah.
anxiety. It's like just the waiting for a panic attack to happen can cause a panic attack. Like thinking that, it's going to happen.
Right.
Um, Now I have a social phobia. That's where a lot of my anxiety stems from. I'm not good at small talk. Like I'm really
Mm.
bad at trying to mingle at parties with people that I don't know that well because I can't do like normal, like everyday small talk that everybody else can do, but I just can't. And then if
Mm.
I start thinking ahead, like in this, you'll notice sometimes, and now everybody's going to notice it because I'm going to say it and they're going to be watching for it. But in these videos, if you notice, as I'm trying to say certain things, I go into a stuttering mode,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that's part of that anxiety, not speaking correctly on video, and well, it's I'm not so.
Yeah, I tend to stammer some. Um,
Yeah.
so some of that has to do with my grandfather. I grew up with my grandparents, and my grandfather has a stutter, but it tends to hit more when I'm having an anxiety attack or, I'm just upset. I have a really hard time voicing and vocalizing what it is I'm trying to say. And I'll get stuck on a word and I'll like stop at like stuck and I can't get past it.
Mm,
Um. Yeah, like my brain moves faster than my mouth, and so sometimes I'll be like saying something and I'll put out like half of a word that I wasn't even going to say or was going to say. But that's, I don't know, that's not really anxiety either. That's just my brain moving too fast. Although it could be like the racing thoughts or whatever. I don't know. But it's annoying.
well,
Yeah.
the workbook for social anxiety, it is one of it's a more common one. It involves fear of embarrassment or humiliation in situations where you're exposed to the scrutiny of others or you must perform. This fear is much stronger than the normal anxiety most non-phobic people experience in social or performance situations. And it usually causes people to avoid situations altogether, which is true. There's certain parties I don't go to because, I'm not going to know the people there, or I don't stay for long. I have a certain amount of time. And certain ones, I don't go to things. I don't go out to some of the, like the fairs sometimes. I just don't go at all, or I have to have someone with me that I know really well, or I freak out and I just won't go.
I
Yeah.
guess I'm kind of like that. I like to have safe people around. Like I don't know, just like people that I know. Like if I start freaking out, like they'll be able to explain it or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I try to venture out. Like the person I'm hanging out with right now, I've never hung out with him on one on one before, and I'm fine. He's pretty cool though, so maybe that's it. Yeah.
I mean, depending on the situation, I try to like force myself to go to most events that I'm invited to if I've got time. Um, it does cause an awful lot of anxiety, but I do tend, like Emmy said, I do try to set at least like, some sort of time limit. Like, okay, I'm going, this is going to be, really awkward, but I have to, in my case, it's like I have to stay at least an hour, but no more than like 2.
Mhm.
Something like that, depending on what it is. It's just, I don't really have like a social anxiety problem. It's just like, I really don't know what to talk about with people most of the time anymore. Like I can talk to them, but there is such a vast array of subjects that just aren't talked about with certain people that it kind of shuts down anything that I can talk about. Or if I've had an argument with said person, I'm really bad at confrontation when it comes to like my own family. So it tends to set off an awful lot of my own anxiety.
I've noticed that people tend to have a lot of anxiety when it comes to their families. Especially when you have a mental illness, and it's like if you're the only one, then it's like you're kind of the bad apple or something, and
Yeah.
people try to walk on eggshells or something, or try not to do certain things, and it's just so obvious, and it's like you don't even want to deal with it, or
I mean, my biggest problem lately has been, ever since all of the drama surrounding my sister, for a long time, there was a good portion of my family that the only reason that they talked to me was to ask me how Katie was doing. And it wasn't, and I freaked out a little bit, and suddenly everyone's walking on eggshells around me, and which made it even more awkward and more anxiety filled than the other way around. And it's just been this giant thing. Every single time I have to go to a family function, I've got to worry, are they gonna sit there and walk on eggshells? Are they gonna sit there and bombard me with questions about my sister? It's a whole big thing because it seems like they either take it to one extreme or the other. And they seem to miss that in between. And I know it's coming every single time, and they mean well. It just I can't really relate to most people in my own family right now.
Right, yeah, family's hard to relate to because they're family,
I mean, there's a couple that I
Um,
can relate to really well, but that's really just because we've all been sort of at like, ground zero for all of it. So it's a little bit different with those, but yeah, like extended family members, things like it's just really awkward.
yeah, I can see that. Um, it's kind of hard, yeah, because they're like your family. At least with my family, I always want to make them proud, and like I never want them to know when I'm not doing well because like I don't want them to have to worry about me.
Yeah.
But when they're such nice people and they do their best to support, but it's like generally nobody really understands where I'm coming from ever. So it's like if they're not gonna like be able to get it, like I'd just rather save them like the worry. I can worry about myself.
Yeah.
I've stopped telling a lot of my family about my stuff because I don't know. It kind of seems like they don't care to know. So what's the point?
Yeah. Um,
Now, most people,
I don't.
when you're talking about like anxiety disorders, you most people have what is called GAD, which is generalized anxiety disorder. And this is characterized by chronic anxiety that persists for at least 6 months, but is um, unaccompanied by panic attacks, phobias, or obsessions. So you simply experience persistent anxiety and worry without the complicating features of other anxiety disorders. So like you don't have a specific phobia, like you don't have a social phobia or whatnot. It's just kind of you have extreme anxiety over a lot of different things and like your life in general.
Mhm.
And that's usually some of the symptoms are restlessness, feeling keyed up, being easily fatigued, difficulty concentrating, irritability, muscle tension, difficulties with sleep. Which I will point out that these are also a lot of symptoms of depression itself.
Yeah, they share a lot of very similar attributes.
Yes, they do. Which is kind of why
Yeah.
I think they kind of go hand in hand a lot of times.
Mhm. I forgot what I was gonna say. No, it's like yeah, there's a lot of different anxiety um, disorders. Like I've been diagnosed with GAD and OCD and PTSD. It's like I can tell that they're all there. Like they're all there,
Hmm.
but I don't know. Like they're all like because they all manifest so differently.
Yeah.
Like they're like the anxiety thing. Like the base of anxiety is the same in all of them, but it's like the stuff that sets me off with each of them is just like, can I get a break?
Yeah.
It's But OCD is kind of like more of a looping obsessive thing. PTSD is, this flashbacks and the trauma, and the GAD is just worry about everything else too.
Hmm. I have the social anxiety disorder, which is called SAD sometimes, or SAD. I have GAD, and then I have some specific phobias, but not really. My
Yeah.
OCD levels are very low. OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. Obsessions are recurring ideas, thoughts, images, or impulses that seem senseless but nonetheless continue to intrude your mind.
Yeah.
Compulsions are behaviors or rituals that you perform to dispel the anxiety brought up by obsessions. So, like, I have part of my social anxiety, I don't like phones. And because I don't like phones, I don't like dialing people. And, like, if it's not a number that I don't have in my cell phone, I really don't like doing it because I will sit there and I will check, like, at least 10 times to make sure that what is on that little tiny piece of paper is correct on that phone. And even then, when I press send, I'm sitting there thinking, oh God, it's not the right number. Then
I
they're
think
going to
that's
think I'm
social
a freak.
anxiety.
Hmm?
I think that's like a compulsion that would be brought on by social anxiety
Hmm.
because you have a fear of accidentally dialing the wrong number and having to talk to some ass that you don't know.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with severe anxiety disorder. Um, and
Like
it
GAD.
really, yeah, it's really kind of more brought on for me by an awful lot of things that happened as a kid. That I mean, I never really learned how to cope with worry. I always worry about everything all the time. I worry about, what's going to happen tomorrow. I worry about scheduling. I worry about timing. Like I'm a total time Nazi.
Yeah,
And
I'm kind of like that too.
yeah, God help you
Me
if you
too.
screw up my plans by 5 minutes because you've just thrown off my entire day and I start freaking.
My mom likes to, she's so laid back. And when we go to go out to go grocery shopping, and she'll just slip in there like, oh, by the way, we need to go and do this. And it's like I already have it mapped out in my head, like how I'm gonna do the drive and everything, and then she throws that curveball at me, and then I start freaking out because I'm trying to think like, oh crap, well, which one should we do first, and then what way should I do to, not use as much gas, and she's just like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, no, it really is. Like, you can't keep doing this to me.
Yeah.
Right.
I like overplan for everything, and if the wrench gets thrown in my plans, it ruins the whole thing. And the general rule of thumb I follow is my day is pretty much dictated by like the first 15 minutes to half an hour of my day after I wake up. And if it starts out crappy, it's going to be a crappy day.
Yeah.
But, it almost, I will point out, and I'm sure you know this, but let's point it out for the viewers, that, in a way you might be perpetrating your own fate.
Probably.
To do that, maybe if you had the attitude, like, well, shit happens, this day could get better and whatnot, like, you wouldn't necessarily have a bad day, but, like, if you go into the day, like, yep, it's shot for shit.
See, but that's part of the problem, is I have a hard time getting to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, like, spirals from it. Like, the other day, like, I was having, like, the Murphy's Law of days, and I smudged the face of something I was drawing. And I was so close to ripping it up, and I was freaking out about it, because it was like the icing of the cake of my day, and I was so upset.
Yeah, I remember that, because I was talking you down.
Was that when you made that post?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the bad Murphy's Law
Oh,
day.
and I told you to breathe deeply.
Yep.
What'd you say?
She told me to breathe deeply.
Oh.
I didn't know what else to say. I was just like, well, I know how that feels, but I also know there's nothing I can say. Breathe. Try breathing.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking
There's
to
not
her
much,
when it was happening, and I was kind of like, you know what, just walk away from the drawing that you smudged. Start working on a different one, and when you get home, we will deal with the other drawing.
I mean, and like the worst part is even getting to that point can be difficult for me sometimes because I start obsessing over it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just a giant pain in my butt. I really hate my anxiety problems. That's actually the main thing I was medicated for, was anxiety. It was like mild depression, severe anxiety disorder.
Anxiety's hard. Like,
Oh.
there's a couple of I mean, there is treatment for it, obviously. Usually cognitive behavioral therapy. I think DBT is a good one for it, the dialectical behavioral therapy, which we are going to go over on Inkblot soon. And then there's medications, and you have to be careful on which types. Like the benzodiazepines, like Ativan, which is one that I'm on, has addictive qualities to it. And a lot of people end up on very high doses of the benzodiazepines, and then to come down off of it is really difficult because, like, you have physical symptoms that maybe you didn't necessarily have before you started taking the benzos. Like, you might lash out your hand or have tics or things like that. Sorry, it's just a minute, guys.
I'll be right back too.
See, speaking of anxiety. Oh, my husband, thank you. One little knock on the frickin' glass door, and I'm like, God damn it, really? And then I realized, like, it's really not that big of a deal to get up and open up a door, but but yeah, so like the benzodiazepines, like you can get tics, you can get I've seen people that have their muscle tics have been so severe that like their arms shoot out
Yeah.
without them meaning to. Um, there is of course the basics of getting off any kind of drug, nausea, pain.
Lightheadedness, migraines, hallucinations, in some more severe cases, vision problems in general.
It depends on the medication. I wish the meds for the anxiety were better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because getting off of them actually winds up causing more anxiety, which is sort of counterproductive.
Mhm.
Well, my mother was on Xanax for a long time, and it seemed to do more harm than good. She took a lot of it. I know she was on like ungodly amounts of it. Journals a couple years ago. I don't remember how much it was, but it was like an insane amount that she could take a day. And I had a roommate that took a lot of Xanax too for her anxiety, and it did not make her better, Like, because like, there's something to be said for Xanax. For some people it does work, but for some people it's just not a good idea.
Same with like
Well,
Klonopin.
that roommate and my mom, and of course myself, like all had the BPD. So, like with BPD, there's like a higher risk for addiction, I guess. So,
Oh, really?
And yeah, I don't know what is up with it, but like a lot of borderline people like really get into the whole addiction thing. So,
That's too
I
bad.
don't know. It's not good because getting addicted to Xanax is bad news,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it
and that's
is.
why I won't take it. I took one ever, and that was because I was flying to Japan, and I was terrified of flying, and I was like, "Give me Xanax." And then I took it like when I was getting on the flight. And he's been to Japan, he knows. I took it when I got on the flight, and the flight was 12 hours, and I was knocked out the whole time. Like I woke up as we were like about to land, and I'm like, that knocked me out for 12 hours. I took like one. Like
Damn.
that's not good. I'm
No
also
thanks.
very sensitive.
No.
And sometimes
Um,
people get to the point where they're like popping Xanax like every hour.
yeah, and that's how my mom was, and that's how my roommate was too. And my roommate would drink when she was on it, and that never ended well.
Yeah, that's not good.
Oh yeah,
But
drinking and any medication is always a bad combo.
Mhm.
but I think with because borderline is very much a trauma issue, and I think that with trauma, like you're always feeling anxious, like so it's like every time you feel anxious, Papa Zanny, like when you've got trauma, it's like everything sets you off, so all of a sudden you're just like oh, like
Mhm.
it's that's why it can be bad news because it's like they just start every time they feel it, they're just like, okay, I'm gonna take one. Like that doesn't work. Like then they're just it turns them into soup,
Yeah.
like barely people anymore. It's like I'd rather have to bear the brunt of feeling the anxiety than not be there anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Personally, it's granted the anxiety is unbearable, but at least you're alive.
That's true.
But that goes with my whole rant on medicine. So.
Mhm.
I have one too.
Which, of course, we will eventually get into more of the information of the medicines. When we do that, I'll be a lot more prepared for it. I'm just when I talk about like some of the medications, it's just from knowledge of what I've seen and what I take myself versus the definitions and how it's actually supposed to work.
Yeah. I've never really taken anti-anxiety, just a ton of antidepressants and antipsychotics, and no. Nope.
Yeah, the Prozac was what they had prescribed me for the anxiety. Well, it was supposed to address the anxiety and the depression, but mostly the anxiety.
Never really heard Prozac for anxiety itself. Like,
yep. Well, like I said, I think more to the point, it was supposed to address both depression and the anxiety in the hopes that, as a teenager it would fix me. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, it turns into a cat. Okay. I got excited because an emoticon turned into a cat. Just a cat mouth, but, anyway.
At least you're amused. I mean, that's the important part.
Yeah, so down with anxiety. I'm also very ADD.
Which is something else we'll talk about.
So
when
anyway,
we do that,
yeah.
the panel will be a little bit bigger because we have two people that I know that want to get in on the action when we talk about ADD and ADHD.
Are we inviting your husband for that?
Yeah, he's one of those two people.
Yes.
I figured.
That is perfect.
Yes, sir.
What could possibly go wrong?
Oh, that'll be good. I think we can probably get a good amount of people for the medication one too, because a lot of people have the medication. But anyway, anxiety.
Yeah. But we're still on. Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a little bit. What else you got?
I don't think any of us here have specific phobias other than the because that's another panic disorder.
Actually.
Oh great, here we go.
Yeah, phobias, as a matter of fact.
So, I was like unbearably terrified of like airplane rides to the point that like if I drove by the airport and I saw a plane taking off, like I would just about crap myself.
Really?
Like even if I wasn't about to be on a flight, I'd just be like, oh my god, those people are gonna die. Like if I had to be on a flight for a long time, I was like preparing for my death before every flight. Like I was so scared. I was just like, I knew it was gonna crash. But I mean that could be PTSD too. But
yeah.
And then I was unbearably afraid of thunderstorms too. And I feel like that would be a specific phobia, like to the point that like it would like if I knew there was going to be a thunderstorm, I would be absolutely like just totally freaked out like all day. And like the first rumble of thunder I heard, I hit the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a specific
yeah,
phobia.
kind of like IBS type stuff, but
because phobias
and
well, we're not just talking about like just being scared or like being really bothered by it, but like when you're talking about specific phobias, we're talking about the type of phobias that you just can't. It disables you, like
dead silence and really being completely alone in an apartment or a house. Like
silence.
Be alone in a setting. Just complete silence and alone. It just bugs me. And it's not even just bugging. It affects my sleep. It affects my personality. Like it's bad. I can't do it. This is why I have this horrible habit of sleeping with like the TV.
Yeah, it's like you get almost like cabin fever.
Because I have to have some sort of ambient sounds. Like I have a lot of issues. Like even if I'm just like reading stuff on Facebook, I tend to have something sound-wise going in the back just to keep some sort of sanity. You know, and it was really bad because I went from
It's
living at
almost
my
like
parents' in downtown Akron to living in an area of Timbertop where it's like dead quiet. So I went from an area where not only do I have a TV on all night, but there's sirens going on outside, to an area where there is no sound at all at night. And it was so bad for like the first couple of months. I had the worst time of it.
Yeah, I get that. I'm the same way. Another phobia that I have, by the way, the plane phobia I overcame when I flew to Japan because, I mean, 12 hours each way, you get over a fear of flying. Okay, well, apparently it is a pretty slim chance that this plane's going to crash. And now I've flown, like, the last couple of years, give or take. I got over the fear of thunderstorms. I don't know how. I think I just grew out of it. When I was younger, I used to have a huge fear of fire alarms at school too. If they told me there was going to be a fire alarm, I would like try to run away, like run home. And but now I have a pretty funny fear of balls, and by this I mean like basketballs and soccer balls and sports balls. But it's funny because like you're around somebody playing basketball, and every time the ball comes in your direction at all, even if it's like a mile away, you're like, ugh. And then like you have to tell people, well, I'm afraid of balls, and yeah, everybody always laughs, including myself. I mean, it's funny,
least
I guess, to
at
put it
least
that
you
way.
specified what kind of balls.
Yeah, I know. I was sitting there like, there are so many different ways this can go.
I always do.
Because, I mean, balls
Yeah,
are
I know,
like
and
all-encompassing in our
yeah,
world,
like I
like
can't-
circles, balls, man.
Gross.
Yeah, it was so bad that like gym class in school, like in high school, like I couldn't function whatsoever, and like I had so many teachers yell at me. And then I went to an alternative school for kids with emotional problems, and I told the teacher like, hey, I can't really do gym because I will completely flip. And he thought I was just trying to get out of it, so he was just like, no, go play volleyball. We were playing volleyball, and I was standing there, and every time it came over the net at me, I would just have like an all-out like panic attack. And my like other teachers, like at the normal high school, like they just got mad at me, and sometimes like I got detention a couple times for it. But this time, like since I was at a school that specialized in those problems, my teacher was just like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just pass you, and you can sit in the sidelines and read a book," because I was having like panic attacks. So yeah, I'm terrified of balls.
Yeah.
I will not throw balls around you then. I promise.
So wait,
Please
what about
keep your balls
snowballs?
away from me.
Do snowballs
Those are
count?
fine because they're soft. Well, actually, I would probably freak out. Honestly, like even if it's not just balls either, I guess. Like now that I'm thinking about it, I've come to realize pretty recently that even when somebody's like hands come up near me, I kind of flinch. So,
Yeah.
I
That I understand.
yeah. So I think I know why I'm afraid of the balls.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but that's trauma too.
yeah,
So
that's a
I was-
that's a trauma
is it still a
issue.
specific phobia if it's triggered by?
I think it is.
Yeah, but if it's
It's still-
like, if you have like a serious phobia. Yeah, I think it has like
It's-
specific phobia caused by.
Yeah, it's caused by trauma, sure, but it's still a specific phobia because you are afraid of a very specific
Actually, I
thing.
think. Yeah, I think they may specify that like with specific phobias, it's not caused by any other mental illness because most mental illnesses like they'll have a stipulation within the description that says, do not like include this if they're like I can't even think of an example, but like certain symptoms of borderline. Consider this to be an actual criteria if it's caused by a different criteria. It's so hard to explain, God. That's just like not to be confused with this thing.
Um, yeah. What this book is saying is
Important to
that
pumping now.
specific phobias, there are they are common, affect approximately 10% of the population, although they do not always result in like all the severe panic attacks. That's actually only a minority that has like really bad like that. But they say that specific phobias are often childhood fears that were never outgrown, and in other instances, they may develop after a traumatic event. So
Okay.
it's
So
still
I'm
a
wrong.
specific phobia. But it is important to recognize.
Okay. I would that's and that
It's important to recognize
right. That you have to be able
what
to
triggers it
differentiate.
and why it's there, because in order to, if you're ever going to get past that phobia, you have to understand why it's happening.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's important. And like, for specific phobias there well, I think they do it for SAD too, the exposure.
The what?
I think she froze.
I think we just lost her.
Yeah, there's.
Okay.
Okay,
My
she's
connection froze, sorry. Did I freeze?
Yes,
Yeah,
you
you
did.
totally did.
Okay, because you
alive,
guys
oh my
did
You
God.
froze
started
on my
talking
screen.
about SAD, and then it just went off.
Oh, I know that the therapy that's primarily used for specific phobias, and I think it's for social phobias too. Do they do exposure therapy for social anxiety?
Sometimes, yes.
It would
They
make
will.
sense because
They want
it's a
you to
phobia.
actually be in there and dealing with it. They would rather have you in a social situation and having some panic, but being able to learn how to control the panic versus,
Right, they allow
constantly
you to
isolating
adapt.
yourself because you don't want to deal with it.
Right. Hmm.
And there are
Yeah,
like,
because I know.
um, I don't want to talk too much about like some of the phobias, but a big one I've noticed in people and that the book talks about is agoraphobia, and there are a lot of people, especially ones that have had trauma of some sort, seem to and I know like I have it a little bit. Like, I fully admit that I am a hermit, and if I could just stay in my home, like, at all times, I'd be great. But,
Right.
I do have to go out places, and I spend a lot of time thinking, like, okay, well, how long until I can go home and, shed off the persona of everything's fine, and just
Yeah,
kind
I get
of,
like that too.
like, ugh, like, okay, I need to go home now. Like, hey,
Yeah,
you
I
want to
mean,
go out and do this? No, I like my home.
right. Yeah, I mean, I get like that too. Like, I had a period of a few months of agoraphobia. I wouldn't leave the house. Of course, I was also caught in like a state of psychosis for a few months and couldn't really process anything that was happening around me anyway. But yeah, like every once in a while, I'll just be like scared of people because it's like, oh my god, nobody understands like me because I'm just weird or whatever with my stuff. But yeah, I'll just get like scared of everyone for some reason, and it really just screws me over because I won't go out and do anything. But like I've gotten good about it to the point that like when I don't feel like hanging out with somebody, I'll make it a point to hang out with somebody.
Hmm.
And it's kind of, exposure therapy-ish, but I mean, it gives me the push, and then like I find that I'm having a good time in spite of myself. But I mean, yeah, it's like
I need to start
it kind
doing
of
that.
sucks. Yeah, like I mean, I'm a very social person, so when I get my little agoraphobic things, it's like a 180, Like all of a sudden, I'm just like the least social person in the entire world, and I'm just like, no, this isn't me. I should probably go out.
It's such a weird thing. Like, I've been coming to realize lately that like my friends, like I want them to talk to me and I want my family to talk to me and like send me messages and like talk back and forth online and want to call me and things like that. And I get really upset like when they don't. And it's so I'm coming to realize that like I want the social experience, you know, I
Mm-hmm.
want to be talking to people. Like, you know, I like the fact that when Ellie's at work sometimes, maybe I shouldn't say this on air. Um, Sometimes we are talking on chat and whatnot, like on Google and whatnot. And sometimes I wish like people would reach out to me more, but
Right.
then I get scared of like, you know, I can't, I feel like I can't reach out to them because then I'm bothering them and I don't
Yeah, I
want
get
to do
like that
that.
too. Oh yeah, I get like that bad. Like
But
I'll
woman, I
start
make you talk to
apologizing.
me like every day because one, you need to, and two, I don't like being alone. I need to have people to talk to.
Yeah.
I need it or I start freaking.
So I'm helping your anxiety and you're helping my anxiety at the
Yep,
same time.
Aw.
I know it's so cute.
I know. Well, you're helping my anxiety. I'm forcing you to deal with yours.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's a slight difference.
Sometimes it takes that.
Yeah. It just so happens that it actually does work to help your anxiety some, though.
Yes.
So that helps.
Right. Yeah, like I'll apologize for talking to people about my stuff because I'm like, oh, I'm probably depressing you. Because I've
Yeah,
been told that I'm depressing, and I don't like to be a bother. But
yeah, and
people
I
keep telling me that I'm not a
apologize.
bother, and it confuses me.
I apologize for bothering people like
I do too, and my mother yells at me for doing it.
well,
Because,
it is important to like a lot of people with anxiety and depression and whatnot, they tend to over apologize a lot and it is really important to like work towards stopping that.
well, that particular attitude is sort of what killed my great-grandmother, is not wanting to bother anybody.
Hmm.
And it's a really sensitive subject with my mom. So when I'm just like, when she's like, well, why didn't you say anything? I'll be like, well, I didn't want to be a bother. And she'd be like, I will smack you upside the head if you do that again. Like, don't you dare say you
Yeah.
don't want to be a bother. It's your job to be a bother. I'm your mother. You're going to tell me.
The reality is that a lot of our support system want us to bother them and actually it's important sometimes to tell each other what's going on, even if it's something that we feel like, you know, we don't want to add to their burden or whatnot. But like what we were talking about in IOP was that sometimes it's important for someone to, you know, tell, you know, even though you have all of your shit going on, them telling you about their shit, it's keeping you in the present moment because you're dealing with listening and understanding and validating them.
Yeah.
So it's important to ignore that, oh my god, I'm a burden, and just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're actually being more rude by not saying anything because they want to help you. So if you're not allowing them to help you and they want to help you, then you're taking that right away from them.
And aren't you kind of, and I kind of feel sometimes like, you know, if they keep asking you how you are and you keep saying fine, isn't that kind of lying to them?
It's definitely lying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is lying.
In my family, but like I said, my mother's side of the family, fine is not an acceptable answer anymore. Fine means freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. And if you use it, that is exactly how they'll take it. And
Oh,
and at that point, you're pretty much stuck explaining why you use the term fine, because you're clearly not fine as in the definition of it. You're the fine of, what it stands for.
I've come
And they know.
I've come to using the word peachy when things just really aren't going well because like who uses the term, oh, things are peachy? So I use it in a sarcastic sense, and that's a really good way for my friends to know, like, okay, things are really not good right now.
yeah,
But
I'll usually go with or, you know.
Yeah. On that note, we do need to start wrapping it up here.
Yep. Anxiety is a broad topic, unfortunately, and it's just fear of the unknown, of change, of the future, of what you can't control. You are afraid of it. And, it needs to be understood how it affects people. And that, sometimes people will have panic attacks, or they'll start shying away, or they'll disappear, or, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a lot of acceptance that things will happen as they will.
Yeah.
And that's hard. And we will, of course, just like with depression, we will be talking much more about anxiety as we go along. Next week, and I am ready for this. Next week, I've decided that we are going to touch on post-traumatic stress disorder. And then the week after, we're going to start talking about the different types of therapy. But since we were talking about trauma stuff, I figured that it was important to talk about PTSD, because trauma does often cause depression, it causes anxiety, it causes a lot of, borderline personality. There are so many things that trauma is one of the big catalysts of becoming mentally unwell. So that's what we will be dealing with next week. And,
so we're going to talk about trauma next week?
Huh?
We're going to talk about trauma next week?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Just as long as everyone, just keep in mind that anyone who wants to be on the panel, anyone's welcome. If trauma is a really difficult thing to talk about, and I understand that. So if you specifically do not want to be part of the panel for it, it's completely understandable. You need to be ready to sometimes be able to face your traumas, or have a way to not think about your traumas in order to get through a conversation on trauma. So just putting that out there. It's all up to you guys. But we will see you next week at the normal time. We will be running at 7. There's nothing going on next Friday, so 7 o'clock it is. And I will remind Ash, because she forgets sometimes.
Don't we all, though? I mean.
So, see you guys next week.
Bye.